is a question all of us have discussed in recent months. How do pandemics end? And how will the one we are currently living through end? First, let's look at what exactly makes a disease a pandemic. There are 3 primary ingredients for a pandemic. It needs to cause disease in humans. It needs to be highly transmissible, no pre-existing immunity to it. In terms of the 3 ingredients that make a pandemic, when it comes to COVID-19, there's not much we can do to stop the coronavirus from infecting us other than physical distancing and wearing masks. The scary part about this virus is that some individuals do not even know that they are carrying the virus until much after they have encountered others or experienced symptoms. You can quickly become infected with this virus from anything respiratory related, coughing, sneezing, or even talking to someone within a 6-foot radius. You can also contract it by touching an object or a surface that has the virus on it, then proceeding to touch your mouth, eyes, or nose. Everyone is at risk for getting it. But how your body handles it varies from person to person. The most susceptible are older adults or individuals who have had any serious underlying health and medical conditions that are either known or even possibly unknown. But how are the countries around the world handling COVID-19? Take Taiwan, for example. After the closure of their borders and shutting down their economy, they used SIM tracking to ensure their citizens were abiding by government rules. Singapore was next with the least amount of deaths. They also implored the use of contact tracing as well as widespread testing immediately following the outbreak. As for the actual pandemic portion of the current state of the world, it is new for every individual, as we have never lived through one. Let us take a more in-depth look into past pandemics. One of the most severe pandemics in recent history was the H1N1 pandemic of 1918. H1N1 is caused by the genes in avian origin, meaning that it originated from eating a bird that was infected with it. This pandemic spread worldwide from 1918 to 1919 and was identified officially by the United States in spring of 1918. This pandemic was estimated to have infected close to 500 million people. The death toll was estimated to be about 50 million worldwide. The same precautions that are used to contain COVID-19 today were used during the H1N1 pandemic as well. Isolation, quarantine, disinfectants, and public gathering limitations. The last previous pandemic we will take a further look into is the 1968 flu pandemic. This pandemic originated in Hong Kong during July of 1968. It was the eventual result of an estimated 1 million to 4 million deaths. This pandemic came from the emergence of a subtype of influenza A called H3N2. This virus was rapidly contagious, with over 500,000 cases being reported within 2 weeks of its initial discovery. Although Hong Kong did its best to contain the pandemic, within a few months it had enveloped Southeast Asia and then the United States. By the end of December, it had spread throughout the world. This virus is still prevalent today. However, it is only known now to be a strain of seasonal influenza. The promise of a vaccine for COVID-19 is inching closer to reality. Still, it's not like a switch will flip and the pandemic will end the moment a vaccine is available. Once we start taking vaccines, the number of cases will go down. Even with the best therapies and vaccines, this virus is almost certainly going to be with us forever, even after the pandemic phase has passed. So, how can we combat this pandemic as individuals? As much as we are all stressed, fearful, and full of anxiety, there are ways to cope. Eat healthily and take care of your body. Be sure to follow whatever regulations your city, province, or government require you to follow. Be mindful of others. And remember, we will get through this together.